Alrighty, so first of all, you notice the background is slightly different because I changed my recording set up by turning it 90 degrees because right now I'm currently working with no power whatsoever. The power went out about 30 minutes after I finished recording the TFC season preview. I was thinking about doing the Vancouver Whitecaps season preview, but the power went out, and I think the power went out because we've been getting heavy winds around our area with wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. And that definitely has thrown a curveball in terms of what I'm going to have to do today, where I can only do videos during the daytime, and I'm probably going to have to upload and even charge my laptop either at the library or at the airport, because that's really the two places I know for sure that there's still power and also Wi-Fi. But that being said, today we're going to finish our season preview series by looking at the last team, that is the Vancouver Whitecaps. So last season, the Whitecaps came close, again, of making the playoffs. And it feels like for the last 3 seasons, you know, I talked about this deep rebuild that the Whitecaps has been going through. I mean, it kind of, you are definitely seeing some progress in terms of this deep rebuild. And I would argue that when you look at this Whitecaps team, this may be the strongest Whitecaps team that they had ever since they gone through that deep rebuild. And there's no doubt that Vanney Sartini team would love to try to make it to the playoffs after they miss out on it on decision day last season. Now, last season, though, they still did finish with a decent record, 12-7-15, and finished with 43 points. But like I said, they missed out on the playoffs on decision day in a winner-take-all game against Minnesota United. Of course, I was there for that one, where I saw the Loons won 2-0 in that one, and that the Whitecaps were sent home packing with a 12-7-15 record, like I said, 43 points, and did not make it to the playoffs. Now, prior to that season, they did make it to the playoffs for the first time in 5 seasons, finishing up in 6th place with a 12-13-9 record and finished with 49 points. But that Cinderella story, or as I would like to say it, that was also the year where the Vanney Sartini hype really got it. Like, Vanney Sartini was just working miracles for this Whitecaps team, to a point where I even said that this was going to be a big dark horse heading into the season and can go on a Cinderella run. That didn't happen. They lost to Sporting KC in the first round. But prior to that, in the COVID-shortened season, they finished in 9th place. And this is definitely one of the more controversial seasons in recent history because of the way that Whitecaps fans are still probably a little bit angry of how they missed out because of the fact that the league decided to use points per game. And that I remember, you know, there was going to be a case where, you know, the Rapids of course finished in 5th place, but a lot of people did not like the fact that they made it because they play much fewer games and take advantage of the points per game total, and not every team basically play the same amount of game. But at the end of the day, you know, when also you factor in terms of the game in hand, the Whitecaps would have still missed the playoffs. But what they did in that season is that they actually didn't draw a single game. I think this is the first time in league history we have actually seen a team have finished the whole season without drawing a single game, with a 9-0-14 record and finished with 27 points and just miss out on the playoffs. In 2019, they finished 12th place, and yeah, this was a huge setback in terms of their deep rebuild. 8-10-16 and finished with 34 points and clearly did not make it to the playoffs. But then in 2018, they also came close again of making the playoffs, finishing 8th place with a 13-8-13 record and 47 points. But in terms of some of the transfer that made this offseason, I mean, they've been kind of busy in terms of making some signings. Obviously, the biggest signing that they made this offseason, or arguably the biggest signing that they made this offseason, because the next signing I'm going to talk about is arguably as big as the one I'm about to talk to, about getting Sergio Cordova from RSL and actually buy him permanently after RSL decided to not buy him permanently there. So yeah, this is definitely a big signing for the Whitecaps, knowing the fact that, you know, Brian White has been dealing with a lot of injury issues, and also not to mention, I think last season he definitely downgraded compared to what we saw during his time when he came from the Red Bulls to the Whitecaps, where, you know, during that 2020 season, or actually not 2020, but in that 2021 season, you can definitely see Brian White was just an absolute stud, and just kind of proving the Red Bulls that they made a huge mistake in terms of letting him go. But yeah, getting Cordova, a guy that has been a proven goal scorer during his time with RSL, especially in the second half of the season, it's a big get for this. They also upgrade their back line supposedly by getting Mathias Laborda, a guy that, you know, the Whitecaps are hoping that this is one of those young South American players that they got that is a hidden gem that can really solidify the back line of this team. That was a huge weakness for this team last season, and it's kind of been the weakness of this team for the past couple of years too. They also got Kirita Yeo, JC Nagano in the draft, Levante Johnson in the draft too, and they also pick up a new goalkeeper in Yoha Takaoka just recently, and I'm assuming he's going to be the regular starter for this team, because goalkeeping was definitely one issue that they also have, knowing the fact that Thomas Assal, I think his time as the starting goalkeeper is going to come to an end because of how bad he was last season, and also not to mention he's been having a lot of injury problems during his young career. Now, in terms of players that they lost, they definitely lost a couple of depth pieces, starting with Derek Cornelius, Lucas Cavallini, who I think Whitecaps fans are very glad that they are finally free of the Cavallini contract, because, you know, we talk about some of these players that comes to MLS with a lot of hype, but it turns out to be a huge bust. I think Cavallini belongs in that category. A lot of hype when he came to the Whitecaps. They thought that was going to be the missing number 9 that they've been looking for a long time, and that didn't work out. So yeah, he is actually back back in Liga MX and with Cholos right now. They also lost Chanel Bikel, Jake Nowinski, who was picked up by St. Louis this offseason, Marcus Godinho, Michael Baldismo, who was picked up in the re-entry draft by the San Jose Earthquakes, Leo Owusu, Florian Youngworth, who of course retired and joined the Whitecap staff, Cody Cropper, and also Tosan Ricketts. Same thing with Florian Youngworth, also retired this season to join the Whitecap staff. And then you got Evan Newton and David Egbo to finish off the players that is no longer with this Whitecaps team. Now, in terms of the strength of this team, I gotta say it's gotta be the attack and the midfield. Like, when you look at this attack, you know, it's a very under the radar attack. I mean, we know that adding Cordova is going to be a huge upgrade to this team, but also knowing the fact that they got the likes of Ryan Gall, probably one of the more underrated number 10 in the league, and also Pedro Vite showing what he can bring to the table last season, and I think he's going to just get even better. And also the midfield, very decent to when you look at this team. I think that is going to be one of the strength of this team, and that strength that can definitely get themselves in playoff contention. Now, what's definitely going to hold back this team is going to be the defense, and despite the fact that they did kind of upgrade the defense by signing Laborda, again, I feel like there is still a lot of question mark in terms of this back line. I mean, last season, I think because of that back line being so bad that you know, this team for a while has always kind of took that approach of just, you know, maybe sit in a low block a little bit and trying to counter on the other end. And while we have seen teams that's been successful to do that, and they kind of got more successful as the season goes along, there is definitely a big question of the fact that are they going to have to do it again, because their defense is not good enough, where if they do kind of play a more wide open game and are going to play a game that are more freely floated going forward on the attack, that they can definitely get exposed at the back. So that's going to be a big question for this upcoming season. But also, I think the big question for this season, as we now into the free big question, is will they decide to go with the same approach of being lethal on the break? So this team for the past couple of seasons, one thing I noticed about the Whitecaps, whether it's under Vanney Sartini or under Mark Dos Santos, is that this is a team that likes to go on the break, and they definitely have some speedy players on this team too. But it's gonna be interesting to see whether or not if they're going to use the same approach. I mean, we've seen teams before has been able to do well with the same approach. Nashville is a prime example of that. But the problem is, you know, unlike Nashville, where for years they had a good back line, this team don't really have that, and that sometimes when they do try to go on the counter attack, if they kind of messed up on the counter attack, then the other team basically counter the counter, and then they can get themselves exposed by playing an open game. So we'll see whether or not if Vanney Sartini maybe elected to do that, or maybe they're going to be a little bit more aggressive this time and just kind of dictate the plays and trying to be a little bit more aggressive going for on the attack, and just don't sit on a deep shell like they have done at times this season. How much of an upgrade is Cordova to this 4 group? I think it's a big upgrade. I think he can definitely score 10 plus goal this season. Again, you know, he's another guy that definitely brings in the speed of this team. And again, you know, when if they want to be lethal on the break, they need to have everybody to have a lot of speed, and Cordova definitely brings that to the table. So yeah, I think this could be a huge upgrade. This probably might be the best number 9 that the Whitecaps has got ever since they thought Cavallini was going to be the answer in terms of that number 9 position. And then finally, in the big question for this team is that they are going to be in CCL for the first time since I think 2015, that they're in the CONCACAF Champions League after winning the Canadian Championship. But the big question for the Whitecaps is that do they even want to prioritize CCL? Knowing the fact that they are probably the weakest team in CCL, and that, you know, I think for the Whitecaps, this is kind of the same question I asked with the Colorado Rapids last season, where, yeah, it's great that they made it to the CONCACAF Champions League, but the thing is, you got to say that they're out of all the MLS team that's in CCL this season, they're by far probably the weakest team out of all of them. So do you really even want to prioritize CCL and really kind of go for it? I mean, the fan base would definitely want to do so because they want to at least see this team face against some of the best team in North America, and maybe even get a chance to see them face against a Liga MX team. But at the same time, you know that you're not going to go very deep into this tournament, and probably are a huge underdog coming into this. So I think maybe they might not prioritize CCL too much and maybe focus mostly on the league. I mean, this team definitely does have depth in its roster, so maybe that might be a key for them to invest a little bit during CCL. But like I said, you know, there is definitely a big question in terms of that, of whether or not if they indeed will prioritize that tournament. And then the bonus question for this team is that can they avoid getting off to a slow start? I mean, this has been a problem for the Whitecaps in the last couple of season, and especially last season, where they got off to such a slow start under Vanney Sartini. And, you know, eventually they did pick it up in the second half of the season, but by then it was way too late. I mean, they dug themselves too much into a hole. So I'm pretty sure Vanney Sartini is hoping that this season this team can get off to a better start, or just not get off to a start where they're in the bottom of the Western Conference for the first couple of weeks of the season, like what we saw last year. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of looking at the Vancouver Whitecaps in the season preview. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video? And if you're a Whitecaps fan, what do you think is the strength, the weakness, and free big question facing this team? But yeah, there we have it. That is pretty much it in terms of doing the season preview of all 29 teams. I mean, I was a little nervous, the fact that I wasn't able to finish the series on time before the season start. And again, especially with this power outage that I'm currently suffering from, that I'm kind of glad that at least now I only have one team left when I am doing this power outage. And again, I do apologize if the quality of the video is going to be really poor, because like I said, I'm just working with no power right now, and the only light is coming from the one window that I have here in my room. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.